Hey, Don.
Hey, Jacob.
You want to be my second shooter?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I met the other day with like an up and coming photographer who lives in a nearby city, and she just wanted to chat. We talked about all sorts of stuff, but as I was talking with her, I would either like make a comment about my second shooter or my assistant on a job, and she was like, "So like, what do you have an assistant do for you, or like, what does a second shooter do on a job?" And so I thought that would be the perfect chance for us to talk about that.
Well, good, because I have some stories and comments for you.
Yes.
I actually think for second shooting for me is it's a very big thing that I don't think gets talked about enough. And I actually feel that second shooting is a very hard thing to do right. It may sound easy to show up and, the lead does everything and you just take some photos, blah, blah.
Right.
But I think a successful second does so much more. And having a really good second makes your life so much easier. So, we could talk about tips, tricks, the difference between seconds and assists. I could go on. So where do you want to start?
Okay, so let's start with assisting. So what do you say you have someone who's assisting with you for the first time? Like, what do you ask of them on a session?
I'm going to ask them basically to, you're doing grunt work. You're going to help me set things up. Okay. So you're going to help set up lights if lights needed. You're going to help fix things on the bride or the groom or the couple or whoever we're photographing if a hair's out of place. You're going to need to be able to do some light banter with the couple.
Right.
So,
right.
And I want to emphasize the word light.
Very light.
Yeah. I'll be doing the banter. You can do some light banter.
Yeah.
But really, a good assist should just kind of be reading the situation and seeing what's needed to get the photo, to get the session, to make it seamless and easy for everyone involved.
Right.
What about you? You got any?
Yeah, so normally, like, if okay, let's get the obvious out of the way. The assistant's probably carrying around a bunch of my lights, right? Or, like, toting the wagon behind us, or carrying stuff that the couple brings, or, like, I'm thinking about when I, like, assist Stephanie at the Harry Potter shoot in Universal, and I've got, like, my bag, the couple's backpack, the lights, just, like, trudging around the park like a llama. So that's the obvious thing. But then, other than that, I need them to be helpful and be kind of taking that backstage kind of feel while also being completely engaged in the whole session, which is a hard line to balance. Like, yes, hold on to that light and make sure it doesn't blow over, but also don't like gaze out into space and forget what we're doing and miss something that I might need you to like clue me in on. I should mention too, most of what I know about assisting in second shooting, I learned from Jacob. So it's kind of like he's having a conversation with himself.
So I want to see how well I've actually, I don't agree with that at all.
So sometimes I have very specific things that I need just because I know the couple or the family or whatever the job is. Like, I need you to be ready to, like, mom is really insecure about XYZ, like, just be on top of that the whole time. But I think there's this other fine line of like maintaining a flow of conversation, but also never telling the couple or the subject anything.
Yeah,
directly.
you're not, it sounds horrible, but you want to be memorable and then immediately forgettable.
Yes, immediately.
Like you connect, oh man, this guy's great. He's a part of your job, like he's a part of your team if you're the lead photographer. But at the same time, the minute the session's over,
what was his name again?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Don't even learn the name. It's fine.
Yeah.
So, and we've been lucky enough, we've been doing this for so long that, we've had a lot of good assists and then we assist each other a lot too, both vice, shooting both ways. So like we've kind of grown accustomed, but like I had my wife assist probably a couple years ago for the first time. And oh my God, I forgot how fresh. It was actually harder than if I had been there by myself.
Completely alone.
Yeah. Like it was actually, I ended up just doing everything and I was like, just watch her hair. She's gotten much better than there. And she's actually an incredible assist now.
Yeah.
But like at the time, you just forget that like there's so much to do and you're focused on so many things. If the assist can take just a little bit off your plate.
It's actually really hard to have an assistant who's not also a photographer.
Correct.
Like you really have to train someone if they don't also understand what it's like being behind the camera. However, I don't ever want my assistant behind my camera with me.
Never.
There's no reason for you to be like standing behind me and sizing up my shot with me. that's not what I need you
No.
there for. Your eyes are on the subject and you're maintaining the lights. You're paying attention if one of my lights isn't firing for some reason, or if we're outside and it's windy and like it's blown around in a circle, it's not even pointing at anyone anymore.
Yep.
Like those are the things I need you to focus on. I do not need you to help me frame a shot.
Ever.
No.
I've had this issue with assistants too, where like they'll come up and they'll mention photo ideas or things in the background, to which, and again, this is going to come off harsh because I'm not a harsh guy. Don't ever, and especially in front of the couple, say anything about anything like that. Ever.
No.
I don't want, listen, I actually do want your photo ideas. I would love them, but not in front of the couple. Because you don't know what I have planned or what they can't do or what we can't do or what we... And then I also don't be like, hey, is that thing coming out? Is that trash can in the background? It wasn't from my angle. But now that you've said that, the couple is now going to look for trash cans.
Yeah.
Or I'm at 2.8 and the trash can is a blob of nothing.
Right.
So don't worry about it.
Right. Yeah. It's tough. I've had a few times where I've had an assistant with me who is very vocal to where the people I'm photographing are able to hear everything they're telling me. And it was counterproductive.
Yep.
It was not what I wanted to do as the photographer for whatever reason. And there was one time, this one specific assistant, I had to ask him 3 times to put my light back where I had originally asked him to put it, but he thought that he knew better than I did about what I needed. To the point where the couple had to turn to him and be like, can you just put the light back so we can continue? Like, that is not what I ever want to have happen on a job.
What a lovely funk in the air.
Oh, gosh. It was rough continuing that
I
session.
can only imagine.
It was terrible.
Yeah, and I've done this as we assist each other. It's a couple times where we walk by something. I was like, Dawn, did you see that archway back there? But when I do it, and you do the same thing, is I almost turn my back to the couple. I'm like, did you see that archway with that sun coming through? Should we shoot and you're like, you could be like, no, we already had plans, or you know what? That's actually a great idea. But would I ever say that in front of the couple? No, never in a million years.
Yeah, I think too, just in general, whoever you're photographing, it's important for them to just have one line of communication, just one person that they're listening to.
And in most cases, they hired you.
Right.
So the person communicating should be you. You hired dummy over here to hold your lights.
Right.
They don't need to hear from you at all.
Right.
Maybe a funny joke or, a quip about something that has connected the day. But other than that.
And you need to be able to read the situation of when the photographer is busy, changing lenses, plotting out something. You can tell the wheels are turning and they're not engaging in conversation. Okay, now you chat with the couple about something completely unrelated or with whoever is being photographed. Completely unrelated to photography, and just keep them entertained. Keep them chatting.
I've done things where I could see my lead was they was struggling with the camera wasn't shooting. There was something not working. It wasn't focusing. So I went over and was like, hey, I need to fluff your dress a couple of times. Did not tell the photographer this. I just could see it. It was with someone we've worked for a long time, and I could see she was kind of So I just went over and was just messing with the dress. I was like, sorry, we got this little crinkle, and they were trying to fluff it out. Got it. By that time, she got it. She just kind of gave me the nod, and we just went back to shooting, and they had no idea.
Right. Yeah, it's a fine line to kind of fill all of those roles at once, but I do think the key part of it is being engaged the whole time. You're in it as though you're part of the photography team, which you are, even if you don't have the camera in your hand.
And even if one of the big things I always say too is a second or an assist is you got to leave your ego at the door. You got to. It is an egoless position. You are going to do a lot of work and someone else is going to get the credit. And that should be okay.
Yep.
That's just the job that it is.
That's how it goes.
Just I second all the time. I shoot lead all the time. I'm okay with both. It doesn't bother me either way, but I just know when I'm a second, even if I take a great photo, they're going to get the credit.
Right.
And that's okay. That's just part of the job. That's what I signed up for.
So let's talk about how assisting is different than second shooting.
All right. Obviously, with the second shooter, I actually treat them as kind of the same thing. The only difference is when I'm second shooting, I just have a camera.
Yes.
I still kind of have the same mindset as an assist, is that I'm going to make the photo session, whatever we're shooting, be as smooth, streamlined, and successful as possible with the added, I'm going to have to take some photos too.
Mm-hmm.
But
you're also going to have to put your camera down.
Correct. And that's a big thing that I don't know if all second photographers get, that I think is like, there are moments when just put the camera down.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing you need to shoot at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
key example of that is during family portraits.
Oh, big time.
Any sort of event where you're doing family formals and you've got a list of people, just put your camera down. The second there's an additional camera to look at, someone in that group is going to be looking at the wrong camera.
Always.
And it's just going to cause problems. And no picture that you're taking
side angle
is going to be
people.
valuable enough to be worth messing up the main shot of a family formal. Yeah. They're very boring, plain shots. So that's when you put the camera down and you pick up the list of who needs to be in the next group. Check to see if they're in the area. Make sure, hey, where did Johnny go? We need him in the next picture. Oh, he's in the bathroom. Okay, I'll go grab him.
I like to get people on deck, as I call it, like baseball. Be like, you're on deck. Mm-hmm. And then when you're ready to call them up, they're all right here.
Yes. And another thing second shooters can help with during those formals is just making sure, especially if they're in formal wear, that the dress sleeve is in the right spot, the lapel is looking good, all those little details to keep the main photographer from going into the group, going out of the group, going into the group.
Especially when you have a giant amount of family photos.
Yes.
If you can just have the photographer stand right there as a robot and just click, click, click,
Yes.
And I always say too, usually in a second, I always if I need help, say on certain occasions, say you're doing you're on a 200 because you really want this crazy, so you're way out there. Mm-hmm. So I'm lining them up for you. What I will always do is I send him up, I kind of I put your hand in your pocket or hold his arm, but then I always say, I can't see what she sees though, so she's going to give you the final. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm setting you up, but listen to her. She's going to give you the final instructions.
Right.
Because that's, again, you don't know what you see.
Right.
And that goes back to assisting where I never assume, I'll always ask you to your, up to you, be like, hey, do you see this? Do you need to fix this? But never in front of the couple. And I'll never suggest photos to the couple.
Correct. Unless you're at a point where the lead was like, hey, do you have something you want to do? Because they're freaking out about something else and they need a breather for a second and need you to take over.
And that's why I also say being a second is sometimes almost harder because you need to have the willingness and the ability to be able to shoot anything on a moment's notice.
Yes.
You're like, okay, the couple or the lead is shooting this. I got this. I'm okay. And then all of a sudden, hey, can you actually photograph all the groomsmen, please, real quick?
Yeah, a perfect example is there's a certain segment of the day where it seems as though the lead is doing all of the main photos and then you're maybe getting candids off to the side or there's a little flower girl and you were planning on just following her around and getting cute candid shots of her playing. Well, anything could happen. What if the planner comes and suddenly tells us we have to cut our time in half?
Yeah.
And now I need you to do half of the group for me. I need you to be able to do it the same way you would do it as if you were a lead. So you need to have all your lenses on you, your lights on you, whatever you need.
And match the lead's kind of style too.
Yeah.
If your lead is kind of does a natural light, you need to be able to shoot it like them. And if they use lights, then you'll be able to have to do both. So you kind of have to be a chameleon and be able to shoot anything, which we always, that's the way we do it anyway.
Right. I had another photographer that I would second shoot for. And when I first second shot with her, she was like, whatever you do, never stand next to me and never take the same picture as me.
Yep.
I don't care otherwise what you're shooting. Just make sure it's never anything similar to me. Whether it's you're on a different lens, you're on the other side of the room, you're literally, if I'm taking a picture of this person, you probably don't need to be taking that picture if there's other people around.
Yeah. And
that was a good tip for the whole point of a second shooter is to do something else.
And that's one of the things too is I know it's weird, but people, when you're at the wedding, let's say, they're always kind of judging you of are they getting photos? You see all the time. They're is he getting it? Oh, do you miss it? If you're focused, because you have to focus on these two right here, this family moment is happening, but then the little kid's over there playing and doing something super cute. The second realizes that no communication is needed. The second knows at this moment, you're good, runs over, gets the shot. Everybody sees that. And they're like, this team, this photography company has got it.
Right. Right.
So that's, like I said, that's important, but you have to be able to trust a second. So that's what I say, sometimes hiring a second is not just, hey, can you shoot? Can you do all these things? And of course, as Dawn and I have photographed and all the other people we photograph with together, we just know each other's styles.
Right.
I set up lights for Dawn before she's even like ready.
Sometimes before I know what I want to do.
And I was like, it's done. She was like, hey, can you put a CTO? It's already on.
Yeah.
and vice versa.
Right.
That comes with like nonverbal communication. If you ever watch us on a dance floor or at a ceremony, you'll literally see us like do these like perfect, we're never together for those moments. But you'll just see us like, I see her going over here. So I'm like, I'll go down the aisle and get a shot. And then she comes here, I get back so she can shoot this way. Same thing on the dance floor. You see that all the time where it's just a quick meh, meh,
Yep.
meh.
Yep. And there are times when I'm lead and I have a second shooter where I already visually have in my head the set of images that I want to deliver. And I know when I can't do both, right? So like, let's say it's at a bar bat mitzvah or a Jewish wedding and there's going to be a hora. Well, I can't be in the center of the circle right in front of where they're putting them in the chair and get like a close-up shot of them from way back, because when I'm inside the circle, that's a very unflattering, let's say, sometimes angle. But I also need to be in the center so I can have more flexibility if they don't turn them around or I don't get the right, I don't start where I can see their face or whatever happens. So I'm going to tell my second shooters for some things, I need you in this spot on this lens to complete the vision I have in my head of how I want to capture that moment.
And they should be able to do that.
Yes.
Without any kind of help.
Or if there's like a stage.
And if you can't trust them to do that, then you shouldn't
hire them.
You can't hire them. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. We shoot a lot by ourselves too.
We do.
And so sometimes you forget how to have a second shooter.
Yeah.
The number one way I remember when I have Jacob with me is that I'm always going to have snacks.
Yeah. I will steal food and put it in her pockets.
Literally.
But I still do it like Mission Impossible. Like she'll be up with the family, like taking photos. And I'll be like, hey, they got donuts. You want some donuts? I'll be like, then I'll turn around and be like, yeah, Don, I'll go photograph that over there. That actually true though too is when we talked about timelines in a past one where when we get tight on time, a second photographer may need to go photograph the room.
Yeah.
Like you're behind. You don't have enough time. So someone has to go photograph the room. And again, you have to be able to trust them that they can go document the room, the details, the cake, all these things.
Right.
So those are all very important just kind of ideas you need to make sure that your second photographer can do. That's why I said sometimes being second is hard because you're going to get bossed around a lot. And again, you're not going to get sometimes any of the credit.
Sure. Well, and another really important role for a second shooter.
At least from like the couples, the families.
Right.
Obviously, the lead photographer should be giving you credit and thanking you and paying you. And
acknowledging you.
Yeah.
But another important role for a second shooter is kind of being like a communication line between the main photographer and any other vendor. But the maid of honor has this photo idea, like trying to intercept those things as much as possible so that the main photographer can keep going with what they already know they have to get done. And then you can feed it into them. Oh, hey, the planner said we've got 4 minutes left. Or, oh, maid of honor really wants to do that picture where they all hold their bouquets around their head if you have time. Or, whatever the case may be, that you're kind of that communication buffer. And honestly, I love when my second shooters also are like keeping an eye on like, Dawn, have you had water?
Yeah.
Like, you haven't stopped moving. Like, you take a drink. Here's your water.
I agree with that. I mean, that's one of the big things too, is usually when I'm a second is I sometimes joke like it's the wizard or like the president, like no one talks to them.
Yeah.
Because even like when the planner comes up to me and tells me that like, hey, you only got 10 more minutes, she's going to talk to you for 15 minutes telling you there's 10 minutes.
Yes. Oh,
Meanwhile, I can just be done 10 minutes. Planner says 10 minutes.
Yes.
Like I am the buffer. No one goes, no one talks it through me. And then I will decipher what needs to be said to the lead. And I appreciate the same way is like, don't bother me when I'm shooting. Especially if we're in the weeds already, don't come, that's what a second just shields you away from everything.
Or even just knows that, okay, I think we're going to be in a time crunch. Let me find the planner and get our deadline. Like we started the ceremony 30 minutes late, but are we getting 30 minutes extra of photo time? Let's figure that out. So you keep working and then I can, as the second shooter, can figure that out.
I was a lead once and I had a second and great. He was a lead too, but like this one time he was being the second. And we had a mom and she was, she was fine, but we were trying to do family and we got through family, but she was always like, move your arms, do this. And then we started doing some newlyweds because we were in the same spot. And the mom just kept saying, oh, no, move your foot this way or do all these things. And it was just like, no, like, you're trying to be like, no, she's good. Like, from what I see, it's perfect. The veil's crooked. No, it's not crooked to me. She just wouldn't stop. And like my second just kind of noticed and literally was like, Mom, Dad, you guys had a recent photo recently? And she's like, no. And she's like, let's go outside. And just took them outside and did a full photo session with them. But it was just enough. It gave me 10 minutes of quiet and then we got stuff done. And those 10 photos, you deliver 1 or 2 of them. And the bride, will be like, here, Mom, here's a photo.
Right.
But just that moment that I got, those 10, then the photos we did of the bride and groom became that much better. Because all of a sudden, and because they were just stressed out, I was getting stressed out. There was a funk in the air. Well, he flushed the funk and took it outside. And I'll always think, and that was when I kind of first started. So I'll always remember that and be like, that was huge.
Yeah, I'll have a lot of times when I'm doing planning meetings and whoever my client is either worried about their in-laws or their mom or their sister or whoever that is going to try to like occupy my time and like distract me from whatever I'm supposed to be doing. And my answer is always, don't worry, I'll have my second photographer work with them.
Yeah.
Piece of cake. And then everyone's happy. It causes 0 friction the day of.
I'll take that grenade.
Yeah.
I'm not scared. I'll land on that grenade. I'll jump on that grenade.
But they just want someone to keep taking pictures of their family, even though it isn't their event. Okay, fine. We got a second person.
Done.
We're good. All done.
And also, I know we've been talking from the lead perspective of a second, but if you're the second too, and you're kind of new, you should also know that a good lead photographer should always set you up for success. Your job, like when it's time for actually shoot, like you're doing newlyweds maybe, and it's just the 2 of you, a good lead sets you up for photos where you don't even have to do anything. Like you should just be able to be like, the way they pose them, you're like, yeah, I got it. It's just a completely different angle, but it's such a good pose or such a good thing. As a lead myself, I will like literally like, I want them to look this way for a dramatic shot or something. Well, Dawn's already over there. Look at Dawn real quick. Not only am I getting a different look, now they're getting one look at Dawn, et cetera, et cetera. So, you shouldn't have to like struggle to get photos with a good lead on top of that as well.
Right. But also always be ready.
Always be ready.
Always be ready.
ABR.
Can we trademark that?
Getting snacks. I want to get some snacks. I'm trying to think of anything was. I also have another story too, though. And this is when I first started shooting weddings. I was at Disney. I won't say who, what, where, when, why. But I was a second, and this is probably like my second or third wedding ever. Ever. And my lead was a photographer who was older. Was more sure of what he liked to shoot, not what the bride and groom wanted. And I just remember we get up to this bride's room, and she was amazing. She was so chill. She had like 1 bridesmaid. So already know this is going to be a good wedding, right? Because she just, the room was spotless. And she was like, I have one thing. They were forcing me to go to another hotel before the ceremony because that's where they want to do pictures because they always forced them to a specific hotel, right?
Right.
And we were not at that hotel. And she was like, I hate that hotel. Can we just do photographs outside? That's all she wanted for a whole day. She just didn't, she hated the interior of that, but they were forcing her to go there. So of course I was like, yeah, that seems like a reasonable request.
Not
It wasn't
at all.
even that hot. Like I think it was, spring. So when we get over there, we do photos of the groom, and then the groom goes over, and then she shows up. And again, the lead's in charge, so I'm staying back. And what do? We shoot all inside. Staircase, piano, very old kind of looking photos, very old poses, very old things. And I'm just sitting there. Again, I'm new, so I'm not stepping any bounds.
Right.
But I'm also being like, in my gut, I'm like, this bride is not happy. She is not loving any of this. And so finally, the lead does his same thing he does every time and finishes, literally, and then goes, takes a nap, I assume. But we still had like 20 more minutes. Like he was just like, dot, 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 dot. And so he was like, if you want to shoot anything, you can. So I go up to the bride and I just go, do you want to go outside? And she's like, yes. So I took her outside.
Literally the only thing she asked for.
Didn't even know what I was really doing at this point. Like I'm still just a baby. And I did all these photos outside of her. And at the end of the night, she came up to me, not the other lead, and gave me a giant hug.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll even say it too. She gave me a tip and thanked me for everything I did. I assumed, I was like, okay, we get back, and the lead photographer was mad because she didn't give him a tip.
Oh.
And I was like,
well,
what do I say? I didn't say anything. I just let it go. I'm saying it for the first time now. Because she came up to me, gave me a hug, and said, thank you for listening to me. And that was like I said, my third wedding. So instantly something went click.
Yep. That reminds me too, assistants and second shooters are very good informants.
Yeah.
Because, think about it, on a wedding, you're always going up to the couple to fix the dress or whatever. And they might not think much about you being there and might more freely speak about what they think is going on, how things are going. And you can take that information back to the photographer and say, hey, they're really not happy in this spot, just so you know. Or like, hey, bride is really stressing because the groom's sister is blah, blah, blah. And then you can intervene in some way. Or it doesn't always just have to be negative things. Like I had a job once where the couple was pretty quiet. They didn't really say a lot about how they were enjoying the session. And it wasn't stressing me out, but at the same time, like you want feedback as you're going, right? Like you want to know where the couple stands so you can adjust.
A smile or something.
Right.
Give me a laugh.
Oh, I love this. This is so great. Or anything. So I was just like trucking along, and my assistant was like carrying the bride's dress as they were walking to the next spot. And she circled back around to me later, like, as they were set up and I was about to start shooting. And she was like, just want you to know, I just heard her say she feels like a beautiful princess and this is all she ever wanted out of her wedding. And it's like, woo, yes, okay, let's go.
That's something you could have told me earlier, but we'll allow it.
Right, but that's exactly, it's just having that second set of eyes and ears and again, being engaged in the process, paying attention to every little thing because you don't know how it's going to help influence the session.
Yep. It's just being a really good team at the end of it. Yes, there's a leader of the team. Every team needs a leader, but at the same group, you're still a team. We had a very brief time at a certain event place we shot for at the same time where they decided they wanted to they were going to get rid of seconds.
Yes.
Where we were a team, there was no lead, there was no second. And
still 2 photographers out on the job, but there wasn't one who was the lead.
Yeah. Even though there were requests, so there were like still requested photographers. So you could have been requested, but technically Dawn couldn't be a second. She had every right to shoot, and it was chaos. We told them it's not going to work, and it didn't.
But it goes back to not having an ego.
Yeah.
I don't know if you said it for second shooters or assistants, but it goes for both. Like it's not a hit to your ability or anything else. Just in this scenario, this is your role.
Yeah.
And even if you don't get final credit for that image, right? Like it's going up on the other photographer's social media or website as one of their images because it was done for their company.
Yeah.
You should still just be celebrating any of your contribution to making it happen.
You still know you shot it.
Yeah.
And a good lead will probably either let you use it eventually or tag you. Like, if they're not, then you need to find a better lead. But, and then the funny thing is, in that scenario I said where all of a sudden for like a few months there was no lead and second, and it was just, it became such a thing. The people that were complaining the most about it were all the photographers that hadn't become lead yet. They were all the seconds. And we were like, all the lead photographers were like, oh, honey, once you become a lead, there's nothing better than knowing that I'm a second.
I know.
I get to help out. I get to make her look amazing. I'll take a couple of photos, and I have none of the pressure to deliver.
It's the greatest. Why would you ever complain?
That's what I told him. I was like, dude, once you become lead, you'll realize, oh, I kind of like being a second too.
Right. And if you're an awesome second, those leads that you're shooting with are going to help elevate you.
I know a couple of photographers here in Central Florida that their entire career is being a second for a specific photographer because that photographer is very successful, and they are so entwined with each other now that they make all their money basically off of that.
Yep.
Because they're that good of a second, and they've kind of hitched their ride on this one photographer. So
it's pretty sweet.
That's the goal. I know. I'm looking Dawn be better so I can be a second.
So I wanted to ask quickly too, like, how do you decide what jobs you'll have an assistant and what jobs you'll have a second shooter and what ones you'll do by yourself?
That is a good question. a lot of it will be one location, kind of where it's at. You know, for me, my wife will assist me a lot on things. She's more of like I call it like the photography coordinator, because she does all my booking and emails. So like she's good at, you know, getting things ready where I can set up, and I'll still set up lights. But like if it's a crazy location and I'm using multiple lights, I want an assist. For a second photographer, honestly, anything on for me, an 8-hour or higher package, I prefer to have 2, just because I know already what I'm getting into. A 6 hours or less wedding, I can probably get away with just me. And then again, my wife as the kind of that assistant where I need her to just, you know.
She's more like your personal assistant.
Correct. You know, she'll do stuff and I can still get her to like, fix the dress and do these things. But she's more like making sure I don't burn the place to the ground. Or,
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I, similar philosophy for weddings.
That's weddings. But other things, obviously you do a lot of headshots and there's a lot of gear involved in that.
Yeah, it's kind of a toss the coin situation of whether or not I have an assistant with me for headshot jobs. And it normally has more to do with how many people than anything else. So like the job that I mentioned last time doing a headshot job, it was, you know, up to 100 people in a 6-hour window. Well, I didn't really want to do that by myself. Yeah. But, you know, next week I have 3 people at the courthouse. I don't need anyone to come with me. I got my wagon. I have time to set things up and I have time to review with each person. A lot of times I'll also do like nonprofit fundraisers by myself, or even if I'm not doing, if I like book the job out to another photographer, just sending them by themselves if it's 2 or 3 hours. And a lot of times those sorts of events, it's mostly like mixing and mingling and like, oh, hey, can we get a picture of you guys together? Yeah. And there's not a lot of like key moments that couldn't be replicated if something crazy happened. Yeah, you're not going to miss anything significant. Portraits, it depends. If it's the closer it is to sunrise or sunset, the more likely I am to go on my own, because I don't feel the pressure to have like really powerful light with a super big softbox to try to balance the sun as much. Like I feel more comfortable just taking 1 or 2 lights with mag mods and I can get it done. I don't have to worry about the lights blowing over.
On the caveat that I always say group size too.
Yes. Yeah. I'm talking like senior portraits, engagement sessions.
Yeah. But you do a family portrait. Most family portraits I shoot by myself for the most part. I don't need, you know, but when you start 5 people, sure. Start getting into 10 people, 20 people. You know, I may be using levels. I may be using multiple lights if I need to, you know.
Do you ever leave it up to the client whether they want a second photographer?
No.
Me neither.
No.
Actually, I take that back. I have for one job I offered for a nonprofit fundraiser because I did all my pricing is set up for just me for those.
Yeah.
And I added it as a line item because I was offering a few other add-ons. I was offering like a headshot station and some other things. And so I did put it as an option, and I think they are going to add a second person. All right. I don't think it's necessary, but they feel better about it.
If
so
they want it, sure.
Okay. But normally it's just included.
Yeah, they don't have a choice. And if I decide like at the end of the day I've already booked them and then I decide crap I need a second, that's on me. That's on me, and I eat the cost.
Yeah, same thing like the brand shoot that we did a couple months ago. Same thing. Like I was fully intending to do it by myself. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, this is going to go so much better with an assistant. And so thankfully you were able to come with me.
And, you know, things like, you know, because we had to shoot multiple different rooms.
We had so many different cameras running.
Yeah, so we had so it was nice that like I could set up, you could start shooting, then come to the next room, fix lights. It would have been, and we didn't have that much time.
Right.
So you would have, by yourself, you would have done it fine, but it would have been more stress that you didn't need.
A little more frazzled. Yeah. My hair would have gotten a little frizzier.
That's big.
But when we do shoot freelance weddings, particularly, we both shoot for the same company, and those are all by yourself. 8
hours, 10 hours.
Doesn't matter how many hours. Doesn't matter. 12. Yeah. I've had a 12-hour one.
Completely by yourself.
It's a long day. A long, lonely day.
But it's funny, though, because, I mean, you may have said this earlier, but once you come back, though, you realize you don't need anything.
I know.
But then you get a second or an assist, you're like, okay, actually, this is much better. But like, yeah, sometimes I'm like, no, you just ruin it. I don't know. Like,
Yeah. I mean, you have to acknowledge that there are certain things you can't do by yourself, right?
Right.
Like you can't be capturing the bride and groom coming down the aisle and get the back of the bride's dress as she's coming down the
Correct.
aisle. You physically cannot do both. But pretty much you could do everything else with just one photographer. It's just less.
You may not get as many candids.
Right. And I think if people were making a printed album, it would feel like there were gaps because it's always going to be like, to me in my head when I'm lead and then I have a second, my main view is a little bit more of like a boring view. It is. I need to capture everything.
You have to get the shot.
Right. Like it doesn't matter. Like 50% of every album I make is still just family portraits and wedding party pictures.
And then even sometimes the most amazing couple photos with the angles and light and all this stuff. Sometimes it's just.
Yeah. It's what I call the mom pose.
Yeah.
It's the one mom's gonna print and hang on the wall. And that's what.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I'm by myself, I feel like that's all you get. Whereas when I have a second, I feel like the second is filling in more of the small moments that I can't look for when I'm by myself because I have a task.
That's why a good second has to be willing and able. Mm-hmm. They have to have the ability to shoot like a lead and capture moments and be willing to, and so at the same time, not shoot at all.
Right. Exactly.
All right.
Well, speaking of, this week I did have one of those weddings where I shot by myself. And it was at a venue where it was a barn for the reception and then the ceremony spot. They actually have 2 ceremony sites that are both just like under an oak tree out in the open. Yes. And of course, it was August in Florida.
So what did it do?
It's September. So it rained. It rained a lot. Monsooned a lot. And it was all during like the getting ready and like pre-ceremony portrait time. So I felt bad. The bride, like really all she wanted was to be outside. So we had to do her portraits inside in front of glass doors. So you could see outside in her pictures.
It doesn't even like open well enough to like, if they had like slid open where you could shoot it, but
they're the pull, like the barn doors in front of it's wide open, but then it's just like
regular old exit doors.
Yeah. Oh, that was the other problem. The freaking exit sign was in every single picture, but couldn't be helped.
It's completely off topic, but I'm going to say it anyway. I know the barn you're speaking of, and there's a similar barn. I think it's the same company owns both of them, but they have, and this was the coolest thing, is they have on the bride's suite, there is a, in the back, so no one can see her, there's an open patio that they've stylized with some cute chairs and stuff, and it's covered. So not only if it's hot, it's shaded. If it's rainy, it's shaded. And you can do all her portraits back there. And I'm like, why do not more people have this?
I know. This
is genius. It's a private door. It literally is in the back of the way they designed it. So everything's over there. So no dummy
at any point could see her.
No.
I know.
Because no one should be back there besides catering and the DJ loading up his
and like
truck.
The florist hanging stuff for the ceremony site or something. Yeah. If there's anyone out there about to build a wedding venue,
see us.
We're available. It's for consultation. But yeah, then my one other job I did this week was a bar mitzvah.
Hey.
So it's fun. We're kicking off in the back to school season, and so like kids are back in school, so bar mitzvahs are back, and this one was fun though because it being at the end of the calendar year. They're in the same like age bracket as a lot of my kids that I photographed in the spring of 2024. So I got to see a lot of the same parents that I've worked with and all of my kids out on the dance floor. So that was fun. Of course, Jacob wasn't there.
I wasn't.
He was busy doing something else.
Ironically, I was a second for a photographer this weekend too. And I hadn't been a second in a while. So it's kind of ironic that we talked about it because it was like it all came back, but I'd been looking forward to this for so long. I was like, I get to do everything and nothing and help. But we were at a, if you've been to Reunion, which is kind of south of Disney World, it's basically it's a community of mansions that are all Airbnbs. Like it's like run by a company.
Yeah, it's just like vacation rentals.
Yeah, but these mansions this thing it slept 42 people, had 14 bedrooms.
Oh my gosh, it was a big, big, big one.
Had a bowling alley with full bowling alley with 2 lanes.
Oh my gosh.
A movie theater. And I don't know how to describe it, but this great room that was themed like NASA that had a full-size like built spaceship that also had a game that if you did all the right things and went up to the 3rd floor in Mission Control, it would launch with smoke and stuff. It was wild.
Oh my gosh. Were they like into it for all the decor? Like,
But
or
it was only just that
coincidental?
room.
Oh, okay.
The rest of the house looked like a high-end mansion. So, that room, I guess, is technically for like the kids and stuff because there was like 10 bunk beds in there, like kind of like if you've been the Galactic Star Cruiser, those bunk beds built in. They were all built in with like charging and TVs in each one. And then everyone else had like big old, master bedrooms with
So
en
cool.
suites. So, but then they got married. They opened the giant doors. They had a big old grotto with a waterfall pool and 2 slides and a hot tub on top. And
Oh my gosh.
so they just, if you're going to do it, you rent the house for the week. You invite all the family down. It was just family. Everyone got to stay there. So no one had to leave or go anywhere or get a hotel room.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then they hired some private chefs to cook in there. And, and then us and a planner and that was it.
That's so fun.
But it was good being a second. And like, here's some of the stuff I did. We got behind. So I ended up having to photograph the groom getting ready because just, things kind of piled up and her getting ready. So I did the groom by himself, some of his portraits, him buttoning and tying and his he didn't have groomsmen, but his friends. Then I photographed all the decor, like the main table, the cake, because they didn't have it ready until right before the ceremony started. So when she was doing family portraits, I said, do you want me to shoot that? And she said, yes. So I didn't help her with family portraits on this one, but it was 30 people.
Yeah.
She,
the whole wedding.
There was a group photo right after the ceremony though, that had to. So like they had just used the chairs, like the outdoor chairs, like the nice ones. So they had them all down the aisle. So I had to move those, set up 2 lights because we were under a shade where they got married, but the entire background of this grotto, these waterfalls were noon sun. So that was like, do that in 5 seconds, get that ready. And then again, it was, just capturing some candids here and there. And finally, we did a couple of photos. Like I had to go up on the grotto to make sure that it was like walkable because we wanted to do one on top of the waterfall. So I was, of course.
So you were the guinea pig.
Yeah. So if I fall and die, well, don't go up there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then then we did one in the little NASA room. Again, this room is 30 feet tall, painted black lights, and it looked like Disney. I had done it. I can't describe it.
Yeah.
And there is a cockpit up on the balcony, up in the cockpit. I don't know, I dropped the ship.
Yeah.
And that's where we put the couple. And then we had one of the guys learned how to turn it on, set the sequence. So the smoke came out.
Oh my
so we
God.
had and then there's a catwalk over here, which went to it's like a jungle gym for the kids. So Stephanie's up on the catwalk shooting into the thing. We have lights down here lighting up the fog. And then I'm in the cockpit holding a light and it's coming out of one of the windows and then hitting them, which will be an easy Photoshop out. But I have to stay low so not see me.
Yep.
So all the pain, all the tension, and I'm holding it for because it took like a minute for this thing to fire or for the smoke effects and the whole takeoff sequence. And that's what being a second is.
I love it. Oh my gosh.
But I'm right next to the couple who are trying to kiss. I'm like, don't look at me.
Don't worry about me. Just be romantical.
Yeah. As I'm sweating profusely and trying to hold this light stand that's, 15 pounds and it's fully extended. So the weight is just. That's what I shot this week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is our time for not photography stuff.
It's still kind of photography stuff.
Love it.
Yeah.
So, Jacob, what destination is next on your travel bucket list?
So are we talking legitimate, realistic, or what do I really want?
If all the stars aligned.
Tokyo.
I've been there. It's nice.
Oh, shut up. Tokyo has been on my dream list since 2001. We got real close in 2019. I'd actually saved up all the monies. And then I don't know if you know what happened in 2020.
I recalled it.
And I ended up using that money to, live because there was no photography for them.
No, there was not.
And they just haven't really made it back yet enough to do it. But that is Tokyo. And specifically, I know I'm a Disney guy. It's all of Tokyo, but with an emphasis on Tokyo Disney Resort. That's the main
Well,
resort.
and every year that passes, Tokyo Disney Resort gets cooler and cooler.
I know.
So I need to make a
every
trip
year
back.
I keep saying, I'll just push it off. No, I just need to go.
Just go.
So that would be my, not even a question. bucket list go.
Mhm.
Realistically, it's probably like a one-night cruise, one-night Margaritaville cruise for $11.
It's going to be like a little cruise
Yeah.
from Miami to the Bahamas and back in 12 hours.
We talked about actually going. We've wanted to go. We have some friends that really want to go to Dollywood and spend in the fall, like the Smoky Mountains.
Yeah.
So that may happen. It was more of an idea earlier this year, but this October, November has actually picked up
Yeah.
a lot. So that may not actually end up happening because what we thought was like, well, we got some time. Nah, we don't have so much time now, which
Yeah.
is, I guess, a good thing to have because then I can use that money to Tokyo.
Right.
But
Well, the other thing about traveling internationally, like you want to make it feel worth taking such a long flight.
yeah,
But then, like, when do you have 2 weeks of nothing on your calendar?
well, that's why it's a dream trip.
I know.
I don't make it.
I know. That's where we're at right now. We were supposed to go this spring to Greece. I just want to go
That's
to
the word.
I want to go to Santorini. I don't care if everyone else wants to go to Santorini. I want to go
You can
there.
just play the board game.
I know.
I have it.
I want to go. I want to take pictures of the cute little white buildings with the blue roofs.
Wait in an hour
On the
line
coast.
of all the influencers.
I don't care.
I know.
Actually, we probably wouldn't go to actual Santorini. There's so many other little islands that look identical but are not packed with tourists.
I'm not anti-Greece. I've just never
I love Greek food,
sure.
and I just want to see the buildings on the cliffs. Like, I don't know. It's the
That's right.
photography in me. Like, I just want
I
that.
have so many other places, I guess. So I guess it would be low on the list. But I would not be opposed. I'd be like, sure.
Yeah, one time Ryan
me.
and I sat down and we separately listed like the 10 countries we wanted to go to. And Japan and Greece were in common and highest
All right.
on the list. I want to go to Italy.
Yeah. I still haven't been to France.
Yeah.
I got to get to France too.
Mhm.
Sounds like all the places I want to go to have a Disney park. That is not that is not the case.
Also,
it's a little part of the case.
Also, I've already been to all of them.
No, you haven't. Not all of them.
I just went to France last year.
Not all the. I thought you said all the parks.
No.
Okay.
Just all the places you were keep
You don't
mentioning.
have to rub
I've
it
already,
in, okay?
I've already been there.
But France is actually like more so in Paris. It would be like 90% France Paris with a drop of Disneyland Paris. Of course I would go.
yeah, we have to.
But for me, I know it's bad, but Tokyo is actually the reverse. It's about 90% Tokyo Disneyland and then like a little dropping of
dabble.
Tokyo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in Paris, it's just Disneyland Paris is not as big
Yeah.
and doesn't have as many attractions. You don't need as much time there anyway. But
Don't tell me what to do.
sorry, just giving you advice from my experience.
It's never going to happen unless viewers like you figure our Patreon. Do we have a Patreon, GoFundMe, Cash App? What do we have? I don't know what we have.
Feel free to Venmo
Like and
Jacob.
subscribe. Greece. All right.
Yeah. And then like a secondary kind of parallel thought is like renting a van and doing a national parks
That would be cool.
road trip. But
Van?
again,
RV?
like a van you would stay in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not just like a stinky van.
No. No, like a van with a bed.
Okay.
A real one, like not. But, you know, that also requires a lot of time.
It does.
And like we have bookings through 2026 already.
I know it's a problem. Like I can never say, my wife just got a new job where, she's not as flexible in her work. She's a flexible work schedule, but like I was like, we're gonna actually have to start planning our vacations like years in advance. We used to be like, hey, next week you wanna go on vacation? We're going. And
Yeah.
now it doesn't work that way.
I know. Same with Ryan. He doesn't have as much days off accrued, so he can't submit for long periods of time. And then like when we went to France and when we went to Japan, we had to do that like a year out. I had to say, okay, this month I'm not booking anything until 6 months before when we buy our plane tickets. And then when I know exactly what 2 weeks, then the next 6 months I'll fill in around those 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But I turned down a lot of work
That's
to do it.
Isn't that fun about being a photographer too? Is that like you'll get invited to some cool things like 3 months out. We have a friend who goes on a lot of cruises because he gets a cruise discount, and he's always like, "You want to go?" And I'm like, "No, I have a wedding."
I know.
Of course. Would I love to go on this cruise for $12? Yes, more than anything.
I know. I know
But
it's hard.
I've booked 2 years out, man.
I know, and we're always booked on weekends, and that's when everyone does cool stuff.
I know.
It stinks.
Oh, thanks for bringing the podcast.
Yeah,
in.
all right. Sorry. Jacob's gonna go cry.
Is that
now. Yeah, I think that's
All
it.
right, we don't know how to end this. Bye.
Okay, bye.